Let's bring in Cole Claybourn, High Sox Sunday blog, cardsconclave.com. You can also find him on Twitter at @HighSock_Sunday. Cole, thanks for the time. I know it's kind of a late notice after I got word of this trade. I thought, who can we talk to that will know about all this stuff? Cole Claybourn will be that guy. So thanks for the time. Let's just get right to it. What kind of players are the Cards going to get out of Heyward and Walden?
Well, they're going to get, first of all, an elite defender in Jason Heyward. He's widely regarded as the best right fielder in Major Leagues. He's got a lot of speed. He's still a young guy. He's got a good arm. I think it's very well known that he can play really, really good defense. And, that's something that when you got Matt Holliday in left field, obviously Randall Grichuk is a good right fielder, but to have a guy like Jason Heyward that you can pair out there with another really strong glove in John Jay, that's a really solid defensive outfield, especially on the right side. And I think that's definitely a plus. I think the question that we'll see answered this year is whether or not he can hit. His offense has kind of gone downhill since 2012. He had 27 home runs in 2012, and his power has just kind of dropped off ever since then. And obviously he got hit in the face and kind of had a tough time recovering from that. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of times players can get revived when they come to St. Louis, and it sounded like from everything that I heard about him leaving Atlanta was that there was some sourness going on, and he was content on leaving after this year anyway. So maybe a change of scenery will do him some good.
Well, I don't know if anything's come out as far as a lot of the specifics on the trade, but I don't know if St. Louis has signed Heyward to a longer-term contract or not, but he's due to make $7.8 million next season and then eligible for free agency. Now, if St. Louis doesn't extend a contract or get him signed out, is this just a one-year deal in St. Louis before he hits the free agent market?
I mean, in theory, yes. I would think, just knowing how John Mozeliak operates and how the Cardinals operate, that this is a trade that I don't think that they would make this trade if they didn't feel like they could re-sign him after this year. I think that they would certainly be smarter than to go after a guy. I mean, the free agent market was really bare in terms of right fielders, and they could have traded for other guys probably that had more control. And I've got to feel like if they made this trade, that they've probably got a feeling that they can re-sign him. They've got a lot of cap space. They've made that very well known. They've got plenty of money to work with, and if they do re-sign him, they probably will overpay him a little bit. But I really think that that's probably what's going to happen here, just because of, I couldn't imagine them giving up a cost-controlled starting pitcher who's 24 years old like Shelby Miller at this point when they've got a couple pitchers who are aging, a couple guys that they're unsure about in terms of health. I can't believe that they would give up a healthy starter like Shelby if they didn't feel like they could get more than 1 year out of Jason Heyward, because that's obviously the big piece of this trade.
Talking to Cole Claybourn, High Sox Sunday, cardsconclave.com. That's where you can find his blog. Follow him on Twitter at @HighSock_Sunday. As somebody who follows the team as closely as you do, Cole, because I got the impression when I first saw it on Twitter earlier today, just before I reached out to you, I got the impression that this was not a trade that people saw coming. Did you have any inclination from what you know of the team that they were even looking to make a deal like this?
No, and I said all along, people were speculating on which free agents the team would go after, that trying to predict who the Cardinals might sign, because it was pretty well known once Oscar Taveras passed away that they were going to have to go after a right fielder, and it just became abundantly clear that there was nobody on the free agent market that really stacked up, because all of them had a qualifying offer pretty much, which meant you would have to give up a draft pick if you signed them, and the Cardinals loved their draft picks, and there was nobody that I felt like was worth giving up a draft pick. And anybody who you signed in the free agent market, you were going to have to overpay for this year, because it was the classic example of supply and demand. There was just nobody out there to be had. So this trade, I said all along, I felt like Mozeliak was going to surprise us. It was literally the word that I used. I said, I think he's going to surprise us. The new right fielder is going to come for a trade, so you can't predict who it's going to be that way. But I knew it was going to come through a trade. And the past week or so, we kept hearing Heyward's name a lot more. And when the Braves were making it very clear that he was going to be traded, you kept hearing and seeing the St. Louis media write about, Jason Heyward's available. And all of a sudden today, it came out. So I think John Mozeliak has done a really good job of keeping that kind of stuff under wraps. I think it's a benefit, because it kind of just, keeps the circus type of stuff down. They're just pretty good about keeping their moves low key and being pretty secretive about it. So, and even last week he was on a conference call that I listened to, and he said, they were down at the GM meetings, and he said, I don't think that anything's going to happen until Thanksgiving. And then he obviously probably knew this was going to happen sooner. So he's a sly guy. He's a great businessman, and he's obviously a great GM. And it's just 3 trades he's made this year. The one with John Lackey was a big trade. The Justin Masterson trade didn't really work out, but I think this is a good trade. I think it's a good trade for both teams.
So in your opinion, it's worth giving up Shelby Miller? Are they giving up much in Shelby Miller?
They are. I mean, he was a guy that just added a sinker to his repertoire thanks to Justin Masterson, which was probably the best thing that came out of that trade was that Shelby did develop a solid sinker that he used toward the end of the year, and also he developed a curveball. So he's got 4 really good pitches, and he's a power right-handed guy. And they drafted him right out of high school in 2009. They had, people had high expectations for him, and he pitched really well. I mean, he had his 3 seasons that he was in St. Louis. He got better, and he earned a playoff spot this year. And I think that he was going to be making strides, and I think that he's going to be a really good pitcher for that Braves rotation. But the thing is, the Cardinals have drafted pitching so well that they have a surplus of that. And when you've got a surplus of one item and you need another thing, then it just makes sense to trade away what you have a surplus of. And to get something, you got to give a little bit. So, it does kind of hurt to see Shelby go because he was kind of one of the core group that's up there now, and obviously was a team favorite. And he even expressed after Joe Kelly got traded that he wants to be the guy that stays with an organization his whole career and be like, is that guy that fans remember. And so from that perspective, from a sentimental perspective, it obviously hurts anytime there's a trade, but you got to look at it from a baseball and business standpoint and understand that the Cardinals, I think, got better today because Jordan Walden is no throw-in here. He's a really good reliever. He was an all-star in 2011. He's only 26 years old. He's got really good stuff. I think he can take the place of Pat Neshek, who they probably weren't going to re-sign. So I think that they filled some holes that they obviously had this offseason. So it's hard as a Cardinals fan to really complain right now.
Talking to Cole Claybourn, you can catch his stuff, the High Sox Sunday blog. You can find that at cardsconclave.com. And off the subject of the Cardinals for just a minute, we got just a couple minutes left, Cole. I just want to get your general thoughts on this Stanton deal, and maybe not the specifics of the deal itself, but are we in a point now where we're just going to throw as much money as we can at these star players? And I'm not saying that Stanton's not worth it to the Marlins, but this deal seems just beyond ludicrous to me because then what do they do in terms of, and I realize he's got an opt-out after 5 years, but doesn't that make it difficult for teams that want to throw this kind of money at a player? Doesn't it make it difficult for them to put the pieces around that player to be a successful franchise?
Yeah, I'll never try to understand the decisions that the Marlins make. They continuously, ever since their inception, have made just mind-boggling moves. I mean, they won the World Series twice, and the off-season right after it, they've basically been a fire sale. And even a few years ago, if you remember, they tried to bring in Jose Reyes and Mark Burley and all those kind of guys, and they had Hanley Ramirez, and it was a mess. And then they just got rid of them all. So, I never really understand what Jeffrey Loria is doing. I mean, Stanton obviously is an outstanding baseball player, probably the best player in the major leagues. So it's hard to say that he doesn't deserve to be paid, but to give a guy a 13-year contract at $325 million hardly leaves you any room, like you said, to bring anybody else around him. And you can't win, especially the National League East. I mean, it's been down the past few years, but there's no way that the Marlins are going to knock off teams like the Nationals if they don't have a solid core around Giancarlo Stanton. And you can't tell me that guys like Adeiny Echeverria and Casey McGee are going to get it done. And that's the kind of guys they have around them. So if they want to win, they're going to have to get a couple more players down there, and even some pitching. They've got Jose Fernandez, who's coming off Tommy John surgery, but other than that, they don't really have a whole lot of depth. They don't really have much to offer, so it's hard to see, what they're going to do. I don't know how much money they have in the bank. I mean, they're basically had to have taxpayers pay for that new stadium. So all I can say is I'm glad I'm not a fan of the Marlins because I'm not sure that I could get behind the business operations that they have right now.
The big thing that jumps out at me, Cole, is that I know they're structured differently for each year and whatnot, but this $325 million over 13 years is an average of $25 million a year. And, obviously there are years in there that's going to be more than that. There's probably years going to be less than that. They build incentives and that kind of stuff. But anyway, across the board, an average of $25 million. I don't know a pro athlete I think is worth $25 million a year in any sport, but they've paid him that now. What does that do league-wide whenever a Mike Trout or somebody like that looks for their new contract? Oh, Stanton's got $3 250. I want $400 million. Are you kidding me?
Where does it stop?
Yeah, where does it stop?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you kind of saw when Alex Rodriguez took that huge contract from the Rangers, the same concept happened. And it is kind of worrisome because, you got teams that have big markets and you have teams that have smaller markets. And the one thing that's good about the NFL now, and you hear this a lot, is the parity. And that, in sports like Major League Baseball, you can have bigger markets pay bigger players, and it's just, it's how you saw, like, the Yankees, and back in the 90s they had all those big name players, and it is going to be interesting to see, when guys like Mike Trout hit free agency, when other guys that are of that stature hit free agency, what kind of contracts are going to be thrown at them, because, they can easily say, I'm putting up similar numbers to Giancarlo Stanton, I deserve to be paid that much, and somewhere somebody is going to fork out that money, so. We'll see. I don't think that'll ever be the Cardinals' MO, which I'm kind of glad about. But, as a whole, as a baseball fan, I'm not sure that I'm happy to see it go in that direction.
Good stuff as always, Cole. Cole Claybourn, High Sox Sunday blog. Find it at cardsconclave.com. Give him a follow on Twitter at @HighSock_Sunday. Appreciate the time, Cole. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, guys.